So, a lot of you may have already heard that PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome is now being discussed under a new name and acronym, which is PMOS, and that stands for polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. Honestly, the shift matters so much more than we realize. For a really long time, 10, 14 years, PCOS was treated mostly as a reproductive or ovarian issue. The focus is always irregular periods, fertility struggles, and whether or not someone has cysts on their ovaries. But here's the thing. A lot of women with PCOS don't actually have cysts on their ovaries. I know I was one of those women who was diagnosed because of cysts on their ovaries, but this isn't true for everyone. And because of that, many women have been overlooked, dismissed, or misdiagnosed. They're told that they don't fit the criteria, but they struggle with the symptoms every day. This newer understanding behind the shift to PMOS changes the conversation from just the ovaries towards the bigger picture: hormones, metabolism, insulin resistance, inflammation, and the endocrine system as a whole. And for me personally, this makes so much sense because when I look back at my own journey with PCOS, the ovarian symptoms were never really the root of the issue. They were a symptom of something deeper happening metabolically and hormonally. For me, PCOS showed up as weight struggles, irregular cycles, fertility, inflammation, exhaustion, body aches, cysts, and feeling like my body wasn't functioning like everybody else's. I've been frustrated because the advice was always very surface level. Just lose weight, go on birth control, work out harder. Meanwhile, my body felt like it was fighting me every step, every change, every challenge. And what changed everything for me wasn't obsessing over losing weight. It was understanding it was understanding insulin resistance. Now, I am not a doctor, I am not a dietitian, and I am clearly not an endocrinologist. I only speak from my lived experience. But 2 specific times in my life where I consistently lost weight, got back my cycle naturally, and conceived were times I focused on supporting my body metabolically, not starving myself, not cutting out entire food groups, and not doing insane workouts, not trying to punish my body into changing. I focused on consistency, balanced meals, movement, strength training, stress management, sleep, and actually nourishing my body instead of punishing it. And that's why this shift from PCOS to PMOS resonates so deeply with me. Because for many women, the ovarian symptoms are not the beginning of the story. They're the result of a larger hormonal and metabolic imbalance happening throughout their entire body. That doesn't mean every person with PCOS experience it the same way. It doesn't mean weight loss magically cures anything. It doesn't mean thin women can't have PCOS. And it definitely doesn't mean lifestyle changes are easy. But I do think this newer understanding helps validate what many women have been saying for years. This condition affects way more than just fertility. It affects energy, mood, metabolism, mental health, inflammation, weight regulation, skin, hair, sleep, and honestly, your entire relationship with your body. That being said, I have seen a lot of conversation online about whether the change of the name actually matters. And I understand the hesitation. I understand that people are concerned and want focus more on the knowledge, because the name change alone doesn't automatically create better healthcare, more support, more research, funding, or easier access to treatment. Women with PCOS have spent years being overlooked, underdiagnosed, underfunded, and dismissed. So I completely understand why some people hear rebranding and think, okay, but what's actually changing? And I personally think this shift does matter so much because language shapes understanding. When a condition is named in a way that only highlights the ovaries, it narrows the conversation. It narrows the research. It narrows the treatment approaches. And it narrows how both patients and providers understand what's really happening in the body. This updated framing, recognizing PMOS as a broader endocrine and metabolic condition, opens the door for more comprehensive research, better education, earlier diagnosis, and targeted support. It creates space for conversation around insulin resistance, inflammation, metabolic health, hormone regulation, mental health, fertility, and long-term wellness, instead of reducing the condition to cysts on ovaries or reproductive struggles. Awareness leads to understanding. Understanding leads to research. Research leads to resources, treatment options, and better care. And while changing the name is obviously not the final solution, it can absolutely be a step towards progress. Because for so many women, being properly understood is the beginning of finally being properly helped. Sometimes the first step to changing is understanding.